howdy folks, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a shootout between the KORG Monotron and the KORG Monotron Delay. Now if you've been a subscriber to my channel for any amount of time, you undoubtedly recognize this one. I did an unboxing video about it quite some time ago, and more importantly I did a video where I plugged this into several of my homemade instruments. It's been pretty popular, and thank you guys for the likes and comments on that. And recently I picked up this one on the used market. And I know what you're probably thinking. I mean, these things are $60 brand new. Is there even a used market for these? Well, it turns out there is. I got this one for 38 bucks off of eBay. So, hey, there you go. There is a used market for these. But anyway, the Monotron Delay. If you look at them, they look very similar. They've each got a ribbon keyboard across the bottom, 5 knobs across. On the top, they've got an input and an output jack along with a volume pot. On the back, they've got a battery door where you insert the 2 AAAs, and they have a 3-way switch here and here that controls the different modes within the device. On the Monotron, we've got 5 knobs right across here. Well, we have both of them. The knobs are labeled. The first one is VCO, these 2 are LFO, and these 2 are VCF. They are labeled from left to right. Pitch for the VCO. We've got rate and intensity for the LFO. We've got cutoff and peak for the VCF. So that's kind of how they're labeled. And if we flip it on, we can see this knob flashes red to correspond to the LFO rate. So we can see we can slow it down, or we can speed it up where it's just basically looks like a solid light, or we can get it really slow where it's, you know, hard to see. But anyway, that's kind of the layout on this one. Let's take a look at the Monotron Delay. So the Monotron Delay is very simple. Again, the switch and 5 knobs. In this case, the first 2 are labeled LFO, the next one VCF, and the last 2 Delay. We have rate and intensity on the LFO, similar to what we had on the Monotron. We have cutoff on the VCF, no peak as we did on the Monotron. And then we have time and feedback on the Delay section. This has triangle wave and square wave as our 2 modes, and you can see, again, this lights up to correspond to the rate, but this time it flashes sort of a greenish yellow color as opposed to red. Let's hear what they sound like, and you can kind of make your decision of which one that you like better, or which one might just suit your needs better. And so I'll do the internal sounds. Of course, if you touch the keyboard on either, you get some internal sounds. I'll take a look at those, but we'll also look at processing some external audio. So here we go. Okay, so let's do a little audio demo here. So you can see I've got my Monotron here, Monotron Delay here. I've got a tuner up here, and then I've got my K oscillator here, and we'll do a few things with those as things go on. But let's start with just the Monotron by itself. So I've got her on. I've got it on the pitch setting. The LFO intensity is all the way down, cutoff all the way up, peak all the way down. So if I hit here, if I hit the keypad here, we should hear a note. And as I go up and down, we hear the pitch sort of change. Now, one of the reasons I have the tuner here is I wanted to show something. So I'm just going to turn that on. And you notice we have a VCO pitch control, which I pointed out earlier, which is right here. Now I'm just going to touch where would be approximately a C here. And actually, that's not too far off from a C. I don't know how well if you can read that, but it's actually a little sharp of a C. So it's actually not too far off. But the reason I'm doing that is now if I go up to this one, it's a little flat of a C now, but it seems to be tracking about, it's in the ballpark of an octave. Not exact, but it's in the ballpark. But so if I hit this and then I turn the VCO pitch, we can hear it go down. But this tracking should stay relatively the same. So we can just leave our finger in one spot and do this and get a similar effect as we would doing this. Okay, so there's one of the things with that. Now, remember, this is the pitch control setting, or the pitch modulation setting. So what does that mean? So if I hit a note here, and I bring up the intensity on the LFO, we should hear it start to affect the pitch, kind of like this, or like this. It should give us a similar setting set to the blinking rate that we see here. So let's bring that up. And if we change the LFO rate, you can hear it get really fast or really slow. So that's what that setting does. Now we still have the filter here to mess with, so we can change the cutoff. Okay, so basic filter sweep there. And one of the things that the Monotron has that the Monotron Delay does not is it has a peak, or what you would call a resonance control. So if I dial that up a little bit, now we start to hear something that's a little more familiar. Here, let's speed that back up. Okay, you start to hear something that sounds a little more familiar with that resonance in there. That's your basic analog synth sound that you've heard everything from Emerson, Lake and Palmer to Nine Inch Nails to Pink Floyd, etc., etc. Okay, so there's kind of what that setting does. And if we go to the cutoff setting, I'm going to turn the intensity back down. Oh, turn the cutoff back up. But as we bring this intensity up, what we should hear is instead of that LFO rate controlling the pitch, it should control the cutoff. So it should do something like this. Something like that. So let's try it. So we get something that's very different than what we got on our other modulation setting, right? So kind of cool. Now let's play with that just a little bit, and we can play with the peak too. So you can kind of do some different things with that. So that's pretty neat. So there is the basics of the Monotron Delay with its internal. Now let's process some external audio. Okay, so we've got the K oscillator here, and it's plugged into the Monotron and then out to the audio. So I already just did a little drum loop in here. Let's go ahead and hit play. So we hear that drum loop playing off the K oscillator going through the Monotron and out to the audio. Now if I move the filter, it should respond. Okay, so there we go. We can filter that down. Let's add some resonance, or peak, as KORG calls it. And of course, you can still play along. Okay. But in addition, we can still use the cutoff modulation here. So if I bring up the LFO and I hit that again, we should hear the LFO controlling the filter. Of course, it's not synced, so it sounds kind of weird. Let's get it faster. And the filter is self-oscillating, if you can hear that. So, there's a little overview of the Monotron. Let's take a look at the Monotron Delay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn on the tuner over here. And if I hit a place on the keypad here, it's registering that about a B flat. And then if we go up here, it's a very high E. So this one is a much larger range. So we don't have the pitch control like we did over here on the Monotron, but we have a much larger range with the keyboard, or the ribbon controller, whatever you want to call it here. We still have our LFO, and so our LFO in this case, remember over here we could choose whether we wanted the LFO to modulate the pitch or the cutoff. The only thing it can modulate here is the pitch. So if I pick a note here and I bring the LFO intensity up, we hear it modulating the pitch, and then of course I can change the rate here. Okay, so it doesn't have as many modulation features, but what it does have is a delay. And I spent a lot of time on the delay in the previous video, so I won't go too far into it, but you can hear it's definitely got some kind of a lo-fi quality to it. And we've also got a filter, so So you can do some really crazy things with the Monotron Delay, and you can get that feedback up and get it into self-oscillation and really get some madness. So the Monotron Delay has a lot of options as well. Well, let's go ahead and plug in some external audio and see what we can do with it. So again, I will play that same loop on the K oscillator, and we will see what the Monotron Delay does with it. So there we hear the loop coming through pretty clean. I'll turn it down just a little. Okay. And if I start to add the filter, similar to the effect we got on the Monotron, but we don't have the resonance control, but a similar thing with the filter. Now let's go ahead and add the delay. There we go. And then once again, we can still add the keypad here, the touch controller. So again, capable of some pretty crazy stuff. But you know what? Let's try putting them both together and see what we can get. Okay, so now I've got the K oscillator plugged into the Monotron, which is plugged into the Monotron Delay. So let's go ahead and start the loop. Currently I've got both the filter cutoffs all the way up. I've got the delay all the way down. So let's start adding some delay. There we go, we got something cool going on. Now let's use the filter on the Monotron. So you can see there, just using the filter on the Monotron and the delay on the Monotron Delay, we don't even need a sound. We can just get the filter cranking here, the filter singing, and get the feedback going. And we can get a huge feedback loop going without even any sounds. So there you have it. That was a little shootout between the KORG Monotron and the KORG Monotron Delay. So if you like them both, maybe you need both of them. If you're kind of on the fence between one or the other, hopefully this video helped you figure it out. They're both pretty darn cool and some neat little musical gadgets. So if you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you'd like to see more of this content, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video.